But of course, this last election was all fucked because, and yeah, yeah, Kills. Go ahead and play the theme. Well, shit, my thing doesn't want to pull it up. Thalmor Radio. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Thalmor Radio. Yeah, he's coming at you from the top. Oh no, no, he won't stop. Thalmor Radio. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Thalmor Radio.
Thalmor Radio. Welcome to the not October 2nd. Whoa, what's wrong with me? The November 2nd bonus episode of Thalmor Radio that was just announced 3.5 hours ago, and I am doing it mainly because of I am doing this show mainly because of the Virginian gubernatorial election. I have Justinina here with me, and we are going to give our thoughts on it and see if, before Justinina has to go to work, if there's a winner called, which I don't think will happen because it's a close race. So we'll see what happens there. I was also going to take this opportunity to go ahead and officially address what has happened with Shifty since Friday, which I will repeat this on Friday, but I thought I'd go ahead and talk about it with the Thalmoria community for the first time in depth, and I feel like it's more appropriate to do that over voice than in text. So I think I'll talk about Shifty first for 5-10 minutes. Then Justinian and me can talk about the Virginian election. Justinian, does that work for you? Would you prefer if we just talk about Virginia?
No, do your thing. Just let me know when to jump in.
All right. So this was Sig. So we were having a great time on the Halloween show Friday. We was talking, having a good time, and about around 10:30 or so, Shifty does an everyone ping in the announcements channel, and I didn't know he had done it because apparently, if you're a higher rank than someone, you don't receive their everyone ping. I had to find out this happened because Rainbow messaged me a couple minutes afterwards and told me to delete what was in announcements. And I was like, what? What's going on in announcements? Then I looked at announcements and it was like, oh, fuck, what's all this? Shifty posted some logs between him and Toxic Pepper. I didn't even skim over them. I just knew that they were there. He posted some personal information about Rainbow, like none, like he didn't really dox her. There weren't any names, there weren't any addresses, just some general information that probably not appropriate to post. So I went ahead and deleted all of that because that's just nonsense. And then an hour later, he did it again, close to the end of the show last Friday. He did another one. I didn't know he had done it, but then Rainbow told me, so I scrubbed it once again. Some people asked me to talk about it, but when I ended the show last Friday, I was tired and hungry, and I think everyone else was also tired. That was like a 2.5 hour long show, and I was done. And that kind of stuff, like, I knew in my heart and in my mind that knowing Shifty and seeing what the issue was, that like this would be a thing that was best handled behind closed doors, right? That was the most appropriate. And I said that when I was ending the show, I said that will be handled behind closed doors. When when mommy and daddy have an issue, they don't hash it out in front of the children. They take it into the bedroom and shut the door. And I am your daddy, and Zig is your mommy. But I digress. So I ended the show. Me and Zig talked very briefly, and we both actually independently reached the same conclusion, which is that we need to strip Shifty of his admin role. Shifty has been an admin in this server for a long time, and that's because when I first started Thalmor Radio, he was my co-host. And so, even though he had been banned, and even though he had stopped coming around to the shows as much, I let him keep that role just as like a legacy thing, as a it was a friendly, good faith, kind gesture. And me and Zig both agreed he should lose his adminship, and so I removed it from him. So I messaged Shifty at some point, I think still during the show, and I think it was after he did the second information dump. I told him he needed to chill out for tonight. And so what eventually happened is he saw that he had lost his perms here, and some of those logs are still some of them are still here. Me and Kills deleted some of them. In hindsight, I kind of regret that because him freaking out was really funny. I wish that I hadn't deleted that. But what's done is done. Some of it is still around. But he was freaking out here. I actually posted it in Seethe and Cope. He basically said, fuck you to me and the rest of the staff. And then I promoted Killsbob to admin, and I let Killsbob arrest Shifty. And for those who are unfamiliar, to be arrested in Thalmoria means you're muted. You can't, you're muted outside of the show. So the only other people to ever be arrested was Isaiah and Firewolf. And so Shifty was also arrested. Now, a fuck up on my part, was that I didn't make sure arrested applied to all channels. So in the general chat, and I think somewhere else, he was able to still freak out and be all rah rah rah. And so finally, he left the server. So Shifty is not banned because of his posting of logs and sharing of personal information of Rainbow and Toxic Pepper. I stripped him of his admin. And then when he was freaking out so much, he got muted. And then he left on his own. He is not banned. And I have consciously chosen to not ban him on the hope that he'll come back and freak out again. But according to Jack here, he was apparently really drunk when he did that, so that might not happen. But that is what it is. Now, Zig says, yeah, but I don't think we want to actually address whatever he was claiming. That is my position 100%. I don't know what happened between him and Rainbow and Toxic Pepper. I really don't care. This is my angle. My angle is Shifty has been banned from Politics and War, whereas Rainbow is still a member of the Politics and War community. During the show last Friday, we were having a good time, and Shifty repeatedly interrupted it with this personal, out-of-character drama. It's not even really out of character because he's banned. So really, it's just a real personal thing. And I do not want people to use this platform, my server, to wage a personal war against another person. And it's especially problematic because Shifty had a position in this community, in this area. He was an admin. He had been here for a long time, and I allowed him to remain in this position. And I did not want it to seem like that me or anyone else here was endorsing his behavior and his position, because we're not. Shifty's problems with people is not my problems with people. It's not this server's problems with people. Shifty has done things in the past, and I had like undid what he did because when the Kitschy drama happened, he had banned some people, and I unbanned them because it's just not. I think Roberts actually was one of those people because I just it's not my problem. It's not my issue. And so this was a bridge way too far, and he blocked me on Discord. He left this server, and if he wants to like be my friend again or come back, he's going to have to apologize. And I don't know if he's willing to do that, but I didn't do anything wrong. And after I understand he was drunk, but like after his behavior and everything, there's going to be some repentance before things can go back to the way they were. So that is what that is. He's on Discord. I don't know if he will return. Mindson says, I'm sorry. I don't know why he's apologizing, though. Oh, it's okay, Mindson. I forgive you. It's okay. So I think that is about it. No, actually, I won't talk about that a whole lot. Not really much to say. Apparently, that night he suicide baited some. He's done that before. I believe that some people, I think Babai and maybe Prefontaine, I think they did arrange for some cops to visit his house, but the guy claimed that he wasn't Shifty. But apparently later Shifty responded to Babai, and that's how we know he's okay. So thankfully he's okay. I certainly don't wish death on the guy. That is completely ridiculous. I'm glad he's okay. And I hope Shifty is able to get help because he has an unstable personality. He has had for a while. I hope he can get the health and live a better, happier, more fulfilling life. And I think that is all there is to say about that. But that's what happened with Shifty. And Kills Bob has taken his place. Kills Bob is now admin. I think he's earned it over the several months he's been here helping out. And we are moving on to a better and brighter future. Now that Bob's an admin, are looking for a new Thalmor Raider? Probably not, because between Soup, Kills Bob, and Zig, we have a really great spread. Everyone helps out. Like Soup records, Zig does little things and records. Kills Bob's does little things. They're all helpful. So I'm pretty happy with it. I can't think of anything else that we need another staff member for. Rainbow says, "Oh, he's done suicide multiple times." So let me talk about that. I wasn't going to because I don't want to paint myself in a bad light, but it's the truth. As Rainbow says, Kills Bob has talked about, not Kills Bob, fucking hell, Shifty. Shifty has talked about committing suicide multiple times, usually after his personal drama with someone boils over really much. He's probably done it 3 or 4 times in the past couple of years. And I'm quite burnt out with it. I was burnt out with it a while ago. But when Babai told me he's talking about committing suicide again, I was like, okay. Because here's the problem. They don't teach you in school what to do when someone talks about wanting to kill themselves. I'm a Kentuckian. Shifty's in California. I don't know Shifty's name. I don't know what town he lives in. I don't know his address. What am I supposed to do? Am I going to call up my county's, am I going to dial 911 and my county's 911 dispatcher at 5 a.m.? Because this was at 5 a.m. Is that person going to take the call? What am I going to say? Yes, hello. My name is John Smith, and I know a person in California whose username is Shifty. I don't know his real name. I don't know his address. I don't know his town. Really, I don't know anything about him besides what his face looks like. And he's telling me on the internet that he wants to kill himself. Can you please do something, Mr. Police? Like, I would get arrested for wasting police resources. Like, so that's how that is. So I told Babai, like, I hope he's okay, but there's nothing I'm going to do because, he's done this before, and there's no way I can really help. Besides, I guess, dig through my DMs with him and dig through the KT Discord and dig through the logs here and try to find as much personal information on him that I can. But, like, it was 5 a.m. and I was probably never going to find anything, even if I searched for hours. So I went to bed, and besides, turned out he was okay. So all is good in the world. So that's that. Is this Thalmor Raccoon John Smith, the University Press of Kentucky? All right, so it's 7:19, and I think that's all I got to say about that. So hopefully, Shifty will get some help and do better, and I wish him well. And now it's 7:20. Justinian can only be here for so long. Because he's a simp, Rainbow. Because he's a simp.
100% facts.
Yeah, he's a simp. He wants to keep that. He wants to be able to still talk to you, even though he's like mad at you because he's a simp. So, Justinian, in your own
who
words,
am I mad at?
Did I say you? I meant Shifty because Shifty is.
Okay. Sorry, I got confused. Thought you were saying
sorry.
I was the simp. I was like, I am, but I don't know why I'm being attacked.
The 5G has melted my brain and I can't talk.
It's all right.
So, in your own words, what is the Virginian election?
So I actually went through and did a bunch of research in preparation for this, so I could give a good little presentation here. I'd like to start off with a general overview, if that's okay, of just what's going on, who these people are, why we give a shit.
Please do.
So, generally speaking, I'm going to focus on the Virginia election because I feel like it's safe to say New Jersey is probably sold on a Democrat. I could be wrong, but I don't really care about New Jersey. Virginia, on the other hand, so just going through, there's a gubernatorial election. They're also electing their entire lower state legislature house. Anybody who's probably been conscious for the last couple of years probably at this point understands that elections have consequences, to quote a famous person. And they do matter at every level, especially the lower we go, the more important it is. Your politics start local is really what it comes down to. Biden is probably more famous, but your local mayor that you don't even know the name of probably has a bigger impact on your life. So these state legislature elections really do matter, and the governor elections also do matter. Just to give a quick overview and not to completely kill the politics matter vibe that I'm trying to put off, I personally researched both candidates for about 30 minutes each. I didn't go like super in depth with it, but on the surface, both of them look like corporate cucks who have sold out the country for their own personal gain, which is awesome. But just to give you a quick overview, Glenn Youngkin is the Republican candidate challenging the not incumbent, but he has been a previous governor. He's a Clinton era Democrat guy named Mick Olive, I think is how you pronounce his name. And he's worked for both of the Clintons. He worked for Bill on his 1996 reelection campaign. He worked for Hillary on her failed 2008 bid. He's served as the chairman of the DNC. I mean, like, this dude is basically the definition of an entrenched, moderate, establishment Democrat. And I have a feeling that a lot of people listening can understand why people don't like him. I'm personally not a fan of establishment Democrats either. This dude also has a background of being a very successful businessman who sold out, who sold visas to the Chinese. Literally, he's being investigated currently for selling visa. He got visas for Chinese business people who would invest in his companies, and I really think that says all you need to know about this person in a sentence. Honestly, he's a millionaire, sells visas to Chinese people, and worked for the Clintons for decades at this point. Glenn Youngkin, on the other hand, is again the Republican candidate. Basically has no platform posted other than your typical Republican bullshit jargon of I'm going to create jobs out of thin air. I'm going to cut taxes so that the budget has nothing to pay anything with and make Virginia great again. He's kind of going for like the everyman angle, which I find is really funny because he's the former CEO of literally the number one largest multinational private equity group. Millionaire himself. They're both millionaires, so that's great. But this guy's also a Harvard graduate, which take it or leave it, I guess. Good and bad thing. He's an elitist, so's the other guy. And then, as Mindsum's mentioning, there is another third party person who's running as a true progressive, quote unquote, mostly on racial issues, from what I could find. Her name is Princess, literally. And I guess we'll see what happens if she splits away enough of the progressive Democrat vote from literally the most entrenched establishment politician Democrat I've ever seen. I don't know why the Democratic Party loves running these like super moderates, but I think it's really going to start biting them the further along they go. I don't think Clinton era Democrats have a place in the party anymore, personally, but what do you think, Thalmor?
Neither candidate is like interesting. They're both well, it's what Zeke just said. They're both milk toast. You know, young like philosophically, I can very easily stand up and explain why like the Republican Party should be destroyed. But practically, I am a registered Republican, and generally, I do pretty much want Republicans to win every time they run. But Youngkin, it's not like Youngkin is like
Well, I'll just give you a solid quote
waiting.
off of Youngkin to give you an idea of where he's. Like McAuliffe is an elitist, entrenched Democrat, and I would not personally choose him out of a hat. However, he at least has a platform that he's running on. McAuliffe's platform is, to quote him like verbatim, to stand up against all of the legislation that has been passed by the Democrats. And he adds that he is an opponent of abortion. So, I mean, he is just the blandest version of the Republican Party's general thought process that I've ever seen. So, I mean, he just has no, even his website, he has no platform listed. And that's a big L in my book. He's basically just running on populism, is my point.
Yeah. I'm not Virginian, I'm Kentuckian, but you know the same reason why in spirit I support Youngkin is the same reason why so many supported Biden against Trump, just because Youngkin is just my guy, not because I think Youngkin is like great. Like no, he's just a.
Well, I mean, do you personally identify with multimillionaire Harvard graduates? I personally don't.
No.
Either way, McAuliffe is a Georgetown graduate. McAuliffe is a Georgetown graduate with multi-millions of dollars. I mean, they're both in the same boat, but it's just I don't know.
Do I want the Do I want the Ivy Leagued white male millionaire, or do I want the other Ivy Leagued white male millionaire?
Is Georgetown Ivy League?
That's sounds like it.
I mean, I know it's pretty prestigious. I don't know if it's Ivy League. I'd have to Google it. I might be being ignorant on
It's
radio.
nicer than Western Kentucky University.
That is definitely true. That's all right, man. He went to Transy.
So,
He's rich.
well, the Youngkin guy sounds like he's stupidly rich. What did you say he was? The manager of the largest equity group?
Yeah, private equity group or whatever that is. I'm not even going to pretend to know what even that really means. He's got millions of dollars. He was the CEO.
Yeah. Which that's what
But another big
that's
piece.
what I think a lot of million.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go on. I think it's what a lot of millionaires do, though, in states. It's like they accumulate all this wealth, and then like they choose to go into politics because what else are they going to do?
Right. I didn't see the Republican guy didn't have a lot of information on him publicly available within 2 or 3 clicks on Google. The McAuliffe guy apparently got into politics because he started running one of the trust funds that funds the Clintons campaign, or funded the Clinton campaigns back in the 90s. And apparently that's how he got involved with them. So you're literally correct, is that they're just like, yeah, they accumulate money until they have enough money to donate, I guess. But moving on from like the individuals, I guess, another big piece of this is that it's 2021. We're almost a full year into the Biden presidency. So these elections are definitely being viewed as kind of a test run for 2022 to see where we're looking for midterms. And a lot of polls are showing that counties that swung really hard Democrat in 2020, voting for Biden, are not swinging as hard Democrat, or in certain cases are swinging Republican for the governor. And Virginia is a key state because it's obviously right on the edge of the South. I think they went for Biden in 2020, right? The whole state did.
Yeah,
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, it went for Biden.
I'm pretty sure they did. But basically, I mean, if you break it down by the state, the DC suburbs up in northern, the 3 big populated areas of Virginia are the DC suburbs up in the north. They go extremely hard Democrat, like 20-40 points to the Democrat side usually, or they did in 2020. You have the Richmond area, which is currently Chesterfield County. If you guys are on any of the websites reporting the live updates, Chesterfield County outside of Richmond City is actually going a little bit Republican right now. They voted Dem in 2020 by a few points. Richmond itself is like staunchly Democrat, like 60-70 points Democrat in 2020. And then Chesapeake, Norfolk as well, the third population center in Virginia, swung 1 to 10 points depending on the county you're looking at, Democrat. So if the polling's to be believed, and the Republican Party has pulled that much momentum away from the Democrats in less than a year, 2022 could be in trouble for the Democrats.
And what you said a minute ago about how this will be seen as like an evaluation of the Biden administration, that was going to be my more high level analysis, because that's what I had read leading up to this, which is that apparently the way Virginian elections are scheduled, they happen 1 year after the presidential election. And I didn't even know that. But so apparently, among political analysis, the Virginian election is like a referendum on how well the federal administration is doing.
Yeah, I think Virginia's a pretty
and
good
Biden's been,
purple state.
yeah, and Biden is unpopular in the polls, so that wouldn't be of great help to the Democratic guy whose name I can spell but not pronounce. McAuliffe?
I've been saying
McCullen?
McOlive, but that I'm 100% sure that's not how you pronounce it.
I'm just gonna call him M in Youngkin.
McAuliffe is well how you spell it, so I don't know. He's from Virginia, so it might be like McAuliffe, and the U is just silent. Yeah,
We
Zig, I've
need
been
to
saying
just have
McAuliffe.
numbers for politicians.
But yeah, I mean the preliminary results.
So
If you guys have been watching the polls, basically the Democrat guy was predicted to win up until literally 2 or 3 days ago. It's like people picked their last minute Halloween costumes and realized that Democrats just weren't who they were going to vote for this year or something. And now it's
I
it's
think
still too close to call. It's
I
less than a point difference on the polling. So we'll see how it turns out.
I saw that it was like an 8-point swing. I think he said something
I
to
was
like put his
actually
foot in his mouth.
that's in my notes. So Fox's poll from the 27th, a few days ago, was the first poll to show a significant margin for the Republican guy pulling ahead. Generally speaking, as much as I would like to discredit Fox, they actually usually have pretty good pollsters, and they usually come out with some pretty accurate numbers, at least amongst their like target population. However, they're also the only ones with any kind of significant margin showing for either candidate. Almost every other poll is like +1 or 2 or 3 or 4, which is within a margin of error, basically, for both either candidate. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Am I talking too fast?
No, I can hear what you're saying just fine. I don't know what Zig. No, you're saying comma.
I don't know why I say it's a thing I say. It's like a thing my whole family says is we say however, comma, to like, I don't know, emphasize a point. It's just a weird thing we do, I
Okay,
guess.
yeah, I know of that. Yeah, I know people who do that.
uh, I
It's
know
a
we probably have quite a few different political ideologies in the chat here, but who do you guys genuinely think is going to win, going to pull it out? Didn't we already do a poll in Thalmor radio channel somewhere? How'd that turn out?
community polls. It's in the important stuff category. 9 people think McAuliffe will win. 22 people think Youngkin will win.
Damn. Does anybody here actually live in Virginia?
I want to say was at least one. You should have pulled from New Jersey. I didn't even know New Jersey was having an election. Everyone talks about Virginia for some reason.
I think Virginia is just the like purple state that may flip. I appreciate the compliments, guys. I'm just basically information vomiting on you, but I appreciate it.
I think the audience likes information vomiting.
I really didn't even get into paying attention to elections until 2020 because we had a pretty fun watch party in Discord in TKR. And Cooper was actually the one who like got me into the details of the elections. So now I watch them all. I like to look at the comparisons between like the margins from this year and last year and etc. And I did have a couple links
I
if
think it's
anybody
great.
was interested. just the guys' websites for either governor. I posted them in chat. And then NPR. I like looking at NPR stuff because I think they're pretty non-biased. So I watched the NPR election results. And they have a good little comparison chart if you guys wanted to look at like the results from 2020 margin. They also have like median income or COVID-19 cases per 1,000 for each county data. It's pretty interesting how that stuff affects the election, in my opinion.
You should do a New Jersey poll right now? Okay. Give me just a minute. I have no idea the names of the people running in New Jersey.
So Princess Chad, whoever Chad is bringing up a good point inadvertently about Princess Blanding, I think is her name. So she is a not my personal brand of progressive. I self-identify as a progressive, but in the economic sense, I would put her in a quote-unquote progressive category that she is like a social progressive, I guess. Her whole platform seems to be based on like racial issues, which I support, but I don't like base my whole worldview around because I guess I'm not black, but and it's a really good point that you're bringing up, Chad, is that she may pull Virginia, as a lot of you know, is in the South, which has a pretty large African American population. And an African American progressive woman running on racial issues may pull enough of the younger progressive population away from the entrenched Democrat to swing it in the Republicans' favor.
Okay, I just created the poll. I deleted the reactions because it was being weird. I just created the poll. So go vote in community polls. Who will win in New Jersey tonight? The Democrat or the Republican? Because I don't know their names and I cannot be bothered to look them up right now. Clown. I vote for the clown. That's a good idea, Cthulhu. I like that. Would you like? Is Princess? Is her name? Is her first name Princess?
That's what she's listed as, yeah. Princess Blanding. Princess.
Okay, cause is that a bad bitch name to be named Princess? Like Victoria is a bad bitch name, but is Princess a bad bitch name? What do you think, Justinina?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Is Princess a bad bitch name?
Is Princess a bad bitch name? I've known one other princess in my life, and she was pretty cool, so I'd say yeah.
Good.
Maybe put that up as a community
Names
poll.
are
Is
getting
Princess a
weird.
bad bitch name?
Ooh, that's an idea. We won't call them bitches anymore. Well, I'm a misogynist, so it's okay.
Apparently not to the level of Shifty.
Well, she talked about it here, so I'll talk about it too. She sent me a screenshot of text messages from Shifty, in which he was like threatening to get her kids taken away, which is just like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like I don't like unless she tried to kill you. That level of
Involvement
vitriol
in your
is
life.
unwarranted.
Yeah. A little
Yeah.
over the top.
On May 14th, 2018, Prentice's brother, Marcus Davis Peters, was murdered by a Richmond police officer while unarmed, undressed, and experiencing a health crisis. An alumnus of Virginia Commonwealth University, Marcus was a talented biology teacher at the high school where Blanning served as assistant principal. Yeah. There was some story I read where like this cop, I think it was in St. Louis, I'm not sure. Like this cop fired into this crowd at a football game and killed an 8-year-old. And it's like there wasn't even a threat. He just opened fire because he thought there was a threat, even though there wasn't, and killed this little girl. And it's like, okay, well, good job.
So one of the big things that you could be looking at right now in the Virginia election, Loudoun County, I don't know how you pronounce that, went pretty heavily Democrat in 2020, like over 20 points. They're almost 80% reported in, and that's only a 6-point difference. So I mean, that's still that last 20% could swing it. But I mean, that just gives you an example of it probably isn't looking too great for the midterms if that's how we're polling right now. Well, I mean, what do you think about how Biden's done in the last year, Thalmor?
Even though I am an anarchist and I lean right, I do follow a number of leftists, including this one Twitter page called "Holding Biden Accountable," and it's ran by like a leftist of some type. And so I see what the leftist argument against Biden is, and it's compelling. Like I'm right wing. I'm a right wing anarchist. So criticizing Biden is already very easy to do. But like I see the left wing argument, which is he has not forgave student debt. He hasn't done anything to help immigration. He hasn't done anything to solve climate issues. Like even from obviously as a right winger, he's an ineffective president, but even from the left wing, he also is ineffective. The only campaign promise he has kept was when he told big donors that quote nothing fundamental would change end quote. So
I
and
agree
like
that he's been ineffectual, but do you think that ineffectiveness is his fault? Could we have had an effectual president in 2021, do you think?
the president doesn't have as much power as people would like to think. Um, I think the last time in which the president had a lot of power was like under FDR. The office of the presidency is kept intentionally, like with its hands behind its back, and also I don't think a lot of presidents have had the will to really govern hard, anyways. And so with Biden, what one challenge to Biden's agenda is obviously Congress because they have the House, but they don't have the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
So I see how that can be a problem. And we are early into his term, not even a full year. So, he has time to still make changes. But thus far, well, yeah, that was the question, was thus far, what do I think? And thus far, he seems to be very lackluster. And I do also have, I don't think it's just a meme, but I do think his health is a genuine problem. He like, seems like every other time he's on camera, he speaks some nonsense. And like, did you see he went to the Vatican recently, and there was an
Mm-hmm.
unconfirmed report that he had shit his pants, and it's like, whoa. So
I mean, I feel
he
that,
he
dude.
shouldn't be.
You ever met the Pope? You might shit too.
Well, he is Catholic. I mean, who knows how a devout Catholic would react? The holiest man alive, I suppose. But he shouldn't be president. He should be in a nice house in a comfy chair around friends and family, enjoying retirement after a long, distinguished career in politics. But instead, either because of his own ego, or the wishes of his dead son, or pressure from old colleagues, he decided to run, and he was anointed by the Democratic Party, and he ultimately did win the election. So.
No, I 100% agree. I think Biden was definitely pushed into running as the idea of like quote unquote the only one who could beat Trump in a general election. Because if it wasn't Biden, it was going to be a progressive Democrat who was either going to be Bernie or it was going to be somebody extremely younger. So I don't know. I don't know if that would have been a good or bad thing.
Who stuck out besides Bernie? Who was like the next competitive? I guess
The
Elizabeth Warren was.
the problem with the Democratic Party, especially in 2020, in my opinion, was the lack of normal is not the right word, but every candidate that was running that was popular had something that would make them unappealing in the general election, I feel like. Either it was Biden being old, Bernie also being old and quote unquote considered socialist by a lot of people. Um, Warren was older. Her policy didn't really resonate with a lot of people. She didn't do a good job of getting her message out there. And not to sound politically incorrect, but I think America in 2020 still, you have to consider the fact that a woman running, a black man running, a gay man running, all of those will still have an impact, whether or not that's the right thing. So I think that the Democratic Party is pushing this social liberal agenda to the point of losing independence. And it's resulted in like a lack of a, not electable, but like easily electable candidates. You know what I'm saying? Like if Bernie was 40 years younger, I think he would have been a great candidate. But he's not.
What did you think of Tulsi?
I genuinely thought Tulsi was like a Republican Party plant inside the Democratic Party. Like, I just, my whole family was like, "What about Tulsi?" And I was like, "That tells you everything you need to know about why Tulsi isn't a popular candidate with the Democrats."
But and Joe Rogan talked about this. Doesn't Tulsi tick all the boxes though? She's a veteran. She's a POC. She's a woman.
Is she a POC? I thought she was white.
Hawaiian. Is Hawaiian still too white? Is Pacific Islander still too close to white?
I don't know. I don't really think that's a requirement. That's kind of the point I'm making. Is like, I think the DNC is too busy trying to push the boxes that you're saying need to be ticked, but the voters don't necessarily feel like those boxes need to be ticked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's through the this woke progressive lens of race above all else.
I prefer the word liberal, but yes.
You damn commie.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. What do you call the woke stuff, Justinian? Justinian has been kidnapped and is probably getting executed right now. So F in chat for Justinian.
Sorry. What was the question?
What's your name for the woke stuff?
The
I don't
woke
think you fall
stuff,
into that
I
category.
personally consider, like, I call it liberalism, I guess, the same word that Fox News would use for
Yeah.
it. Not in like a derogatory way, just in a way that separates it from like economically progressive ideas of making the economy fairer for the lower classes. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I sit in
Yeah.
politics. Is America is like a shithole corporatocracy, and we really need to fix it. And if we fix the economy, then a lot of other equality issues would fall into place behind that. Not saying these other issues should be ignored or cast aside or are unimportant, but just that we have a really big glaring issue of the country falling apart, and we need to fix that first, in my opinion.
I'm frustrated by the left-right spectrum because when trying to describe American politics, it's literally a 2D lens for what seems to be more of a 3D happening. Like you have right-wing thoughts like the most diehard of Trump supporters is a good example of like what the right wing looks like. And then you have the left, but there's like two different lefts. You have the actual left with what like you are a part of. And then you have the woke liberals, or like I call them the progressive authoritarians because they're not actually liberal. They're like they're taking the frame of what is usually the left, but they're wearing it like a costume because all they're really trying to do is just grab power, and they think that is the vehicle to do it. If it stopped working, they would just be on the right. And these progressive authoritarians are like they come from the institutions, they get pushed by Hollywood and the media, and then that's how they end up influencing um, politics. And of course, the corporations are involved as well. So, like, it's not just left versus right, it's actually like top down, and they just use the left as a vehicle.
Well, I think that's kind of a
And it's
symptom of the larger issue of big, they call it big tent politics. And it's usually a term that I hear used referred to the Democratic Party, but it's really true of both parties in that because we only have two parties and because of the unfortunate fact that you either vote one of the two ways or you're throwing a vote away, you know, that's still true today for the most part. The big tent aspect of it means that like the Democrats encompass people like Joe Manchin, people like AOC, people like Bernie, people like Biden, all in the same political party. When realistically, if you went anywhere else outside of a two-party system, Manchin and AOC would not even be in the same like room, let alone the same, you know what I mean, voting block party. And it causes issues like we're seeing right now. It's been a year of, you know, the Democrats in the Senate dragging their feet on this spending bill because, you know, a handful of Democrats will not go for basically it seems like any kind of spending, um, which is just wildly out of line when you look at, you know, people like AOC or Bernie's thoughts on how the government should be handling things currently. Um, Similarly with the Republicans, like you said, the Trumpists are wildly disconnected from people like Mitch McConnell or even what's our other Kentucky senator's name? Rand Paul.
Rand Paul?
Is that his name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Rand Paul's like a libertarian, isn't he? Like a self-proclaimed libertarian. And I mean, he's falling under the Republican category. When I mean, it's just him and Mitch McConnell should not be in the same room. Realistically, like it's just radically different philosophies being forced under one of two categories. And I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. Right now, I think it's a bad thing, obviously, but
Yeah. So I'm an anarchist because my politics stem from a pro-liberty desire, and there's a new caucus of the Libertarian Party that has been formed, and they're trying to take over the Libertarian Party on all levels here soon. And they're going to try to run this comic named Dave Smith, who has been very loud and proud. And he's going to get another very loud and proud social commentator named Michael Malice to be his press secretary. And I'm hoping through them running and the attention they're going to try to get that they can introduce a lot of people to libertarian ideas in a very bombastic, proud way that's outside the current spectrum of political discourse. And I'm hoping that will wake a lot of people up to just how fucked American politics are and just how better they could become. So that's something I'm kind of watch happen. But that's a lot of things. So that's from step A to B to C to D to blah, blah.
So for people like me, and I'm assuming maybe one other person in the chat, when somebody says libertarian to me, I think of the meme of the dude who's like, "It's happening" with the rainbow lights behind him. You know what I'm talking about? And the
You know who that is?
I kind of know who he is, but yeah, that guy that Zig just posted. But my point is, when somebody says libertarian to me, I think of the old adage of libertarians are the people who want the government to pave the road but don't want to pay for it. So I mean, can you maybe outline what libertarianism actually believes in or thinks should be the way that government functions in a way that makes better sense than that? Because I'm genuinely curious. I've never met somebody who's libertarian and not just dumb or 14.
Yeah, they want the government to just shrink in general and intrude less on people's lives. Does that make any sense? How the government keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. They want the opposite to happen, especially when it comes to how people live their daily life.
So specifically, where would government shrink? Who would get the axe, basically, is what I'm at. Who would we fire to shrink government?
Ideally, a lot of them. Yeah, ATF, TSA, NSA. Not abolish the FBI and CIA, but shrink them. Yeah, DEA. All of these enforcement agencies, all these federal police.
So basically, the executive branch, per se, all the alphabet soup people. Sans maybe some of the more necessary ones.
I mean, they would eventually shrink all of it, but again, I think the main focus is on what affects daily people the most, and because the ultimate libertarian ideal would be that drugs are legal, firearms are legal. There's just few, there's over 100,000 federal criminal statutes, and the libertarian idea would be to shrink that to a tenth of what it is.
So, dare I ask the controversial question of, if we're shrinking or getting rid of DEA, FBI, NSA, etc., where do the libertarians stand on a police department? Like, are y'all in the same camp of like
Well,
defund the police as like
okay.
Black Lives Matter people?
So you just said, are all libertarians all in the same camp? Libertarians are infamous for their incessant infighting. If you think there's infighting in the Democratic Party between the corporate Dems and like the AOC types, buddy, you don't know just how bad the libertarians are. The libertarians can never agree to anything ever. You ask 10 libertarians what they think about tax policy, you will get 11 different answers. It is really, really bad. But where do the libertarians stand on the police? That's your question, right?
Generally,
Libertarians they're not anarchists. They don't really believe in the abolishment of the police as an actual like serious political idea. But their viewpoint would be the police are necessary for the enforcement of contracts. And of course, like catching murderers,
when you say
stopping gun wars, and
contract,
stuff like that.
what do you mean by contract?
If I sue someone because they broke the windows of my store and I collected judgment from them,
so like a social contract.
but no, like, make sure that laws are enforced and make sure
I get what you're
society
saying.
Actual contracts, the social contract, although the idea of a social contract is I'm a little iffy on. Like legal contracts, make sure laws and make sure the courts can function. And of course the courts would be, for whatever.
So I mean, basically everything you just described in my mind is where like a progressive agenda should align. Like dismantling, these excuse me. I don't even know what you would describe them as other than just like the immoral agencies like DEA, ICE, ATF, like people that go out of their way to basically what's the word I'm looking for? Prosecute like the American people or people like within our own country for crimes that are not always, but oftentimes victimless for the most part. I mean, that's pretty much where I fall too on a lot of what you said. Which is funny because talking to a lot of people in Kentucky who fall into generally very conservative camps, there's a lot of people who think that same way, that line up with what I would describe as progressive ideas, what I would describe as, things that would move us forward as a society, and yet vote for the people that will vote against abortion laws because that's a single issue vote. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Why did the libertarians line up with the Republicans instead of the Democrats is what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Is it just purely firearms? And then kind of like social conservatism?
If I had to guess, I'm thinking really hard. That's why I'm quiet. I think it's because with the Democratic Party, the left are the main authoritarians right now.
You think so?
Whereas Republicans are the ineffective resistance against them. So that's why the libertarians seem to fall to more the right. Which it doesn't really make sense though, because like it's under the Republicans that we have the Patriot Act. So it's like, I don't know, that is a little bit odd. I guess I don't really have much of an answer.
I feel like as far as the alphabet soup groups are concerned, not saying purely Republicans are to blame, but I feel like the Republicans in general have generally been responsible for the expansion of especially like law enforcement agencies expansion. So I would feel like the Libertarians should line up on the other side. I mean, not like the Democrats really dismantle agencies on the other hand, or oppose them when they're, put up for expansion in the Congress, but
Well, I mean,
that's
Trump
actually what
literally
I
ran
literally
on a
just said,
platform
was that the
of.
Dems don't oppose it. That's kind of the problem. There really hasn't been a difference between the
Well,
Democrat and Republican platform for like the last 20 years.
I think, well, and maybe the Libertarians aligning with the right is just a new phenomenon. I think that would probably be it. Because, like, back when you had, like, the moral majority, I'm pretty sure the Libertarians didn't support the right. But Trump ran on the platform of law and order in 2016, and I guess maybe 2020. So it would make sense for the Libertarians to be against him, which I don't think they really were. So I don't know what's going on with that, Justinian. And of course, the Libertarian Party officially likes to take swipes at both sides, even if like individual libertarians will like gun to their head would support the Republicans or the Democrats more times than not.
Just a quick update on the Virginia
Do you have any other
election.
questions?
42% reporting in, 56% in favor of Youngkin, and 43% in favor of McOlive. Oh, here's another piece for you. Here's a good discussion point, Thalmor. What do you think about removing the R and D on voting ballots, just as a rule? Do you think that would heavily swing the outcome of elections if people didn't know who they were supposed to vote for, just based on the letter? Or do I not have
When
enough
I
faith
went
in
to
the
vote,
American people?
I don't have enough faith in the American people. See, when I went to vote in last year, not in 2016 because it was an electronic machine, but in 2020, I voted with a paper ballot. And I remember, obviously, there were 5 elections I was voting in. The presidential election, like a state election, and like a few other state offices. And I didn't even know that those elections were going on. And because I practically, pragmatically support the Republicans, I voted straight Republican. I did debate if I should vote for Kanye West or not, but ultimately I did vote for Trump. And in that situation, like I wouldn't know who to vote for because I didn't even do the research. Because I didn't know the other things were going on, and I am probably more interested in the day to day of politics than most people in my area. So, like, I don't think your average voter is more informed than I am, and I was not equipped to vote intelligently in these other minor, more local elections.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just not vote, or yeah, I wouldn't vote. I wouldn't cast a vote in that situation. And I guess then only those most interested in those local elections would vote. Huh. I would want to do more research in that. Because I think it would encourage more people to be more active about who they research before they vote.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I I think it's a bad idea to expect more work from people in any decision. If you expect people with no incentive to do more work, you're going to be disappointed. So, like, I can kind of see how removing the R&D can be beneficial, but I can also see how it would, at best, do nothing. What are the arguments for removing party initials, Justinian? You know?
I genuinely think people might not know who to vote for. beyond the presidential candidate.
Yeah, I wouldn't. And I think I'm more informed than the average voter. So that would be, but like if you live in a small town and you're like a white working class guy, you're probably already motivated to vote for John Smith, who you've known since you were in high school with, and who is running for town council. So like you might already be motivated to go vote for your buddy, whereas I live in a holler out in the country and I don't really know that many people in town. Zig. So like those who are already interested in voting in their communities, I mean, they would still be motivated to vote. But I don't know. That's an idea.
I don't know. It's still too early to call the Virginia election.
Fairfax County.
It is really looking like a red wave coming through a little bit. But I know the Democrat votes take a while to come in usually. So I don't know.
How much is in?
Well,
How
certain
much? What
areas.
percentage?
So like Richmond City, which went really heavy Democrat in 2020, has reported 0% in so far. Chesapeake City is only 24% in. Virginia Beach is less than half. Norfolk is less than half. Portsmouth is less than half. Fairfax, which is the number one most populous county, is only 8% in. That's 1 million people by itself. Over 1 million people by itself. Just to give you an idea of where that puts the election, 8% of 1 million people reporting in from Fairfax. The total number of votes is roughly the population of Fairfax. The total number of votes currently that have been reported in roughly equates to the population of Fairfax County right now. So, I mean, it could swing. It could, but we'll see.
And Fairfax County is apparently having to like they're delaying their count, so we might know the winner by tomorrow morning or sooner, maybe. Or it might be
Just looking at it right now, I mean, that's over a 10-point margin so far with half the votes in, 49% reporting in. So, don't know. Doesn't look like Princess Blanding actually took that big of a percentage of the vote, though, either way. Only 10K votes for her so far.
Oh, poor princess. Poor princess. It's only another 44 minutes. I don't think they'll be able to call it by 9. Justine, we're going all night. Zig, you know what? No. Thalmor election party.
Okay, so Hillbilly asked a good question, actually. Why does it take longer to count Dem votes than Republican votes? Question mark, question mark, question mark. So typically this is a trend that we see in most elections because Democrat votes often flow from dense urban centers, which just for some reason, by the product of the American voting system, means more people per poll instead of just making more polls and making it easier to vote. So basically, it delays the whole process. More people in one area means longer to count the votes, basically. And urban centers tend to vote Democrat in most places. Not every urban center ever, but just as a general rule of thumb. And that's why it usually takes longer for the Democrat votes to come rolling in. But that was a good question. What else? Who else has questions about our broken election system?
What should the criminal punishment be for those who put pineapple on pizza?
You guys don't like pineapple on pizza? Never had a little Hawaiian pizza? It's not that bad. I've never purposefully ordered it, but I've tried it. Anyway, put me to death.
I was thinking more 3 to life, but death is also
3
okay.
to life? That is a huge range.
No,
Why?
30 to life.
Oh, 30 to life. Isn't life 25? Why are they called Democrats
I
if they don't
think
believe in
life
direct
does have. I think life is a specific number of years, not just a hard until you die. But
I think
it's a long time.
it might vary by state, honestly. Because I know some places it's like 20 or 25 years. Mine's I'll be honest, I don't know the history of the names of the parties. So I could not tell you. Could have answered it with a joke. Do I seem like the kind of person who would make a joke?
Church wants to give his opinion on broken politics. Justine, do you care if I unmute Church and let him talk some?
Go for it, man.
My mic was muted. Dude, this is why I hate the election process in this country, is because the norm is you're either basically Republican or Democratic, and those are the only two you can pick, it seems like. If you pick anything else, you're wrong to say. And I think that's how we kind of screw ourselves over, because we're looking over some other potential candidates that would be good and that would work out good, but they're not Democratic or Republican, and that just sucks. I'm not
I
wrong.
100% agree. First off, Church, are you from Kentucky? We only let Kentuckians on here. So if you're not from Kentucky, we will have to ban you from Thalmor.
Ah, shit. Yes, I'm from Kentucky.
Well, sounds good to me.
Shut up, Furwolf.
That's as much voter ID as I need.
So, exactly, oh my god. And Latsu was talking about how, this many votes just popped up at 1 a.m. I mean, we will never actually really know the truth. If the media wants to keep shit hidden, they're gonna... Oh, you're memeing. Alright, good. Then I don't have to speak about it. Also, I think that having the media persuade you to vote for one certain party, or having it be the popular opinion, should not be how you vote. I think people should actually take some time and reflect on how they actually feel on things, and not focus on what their peers like or stuff like that. I think they should really take some time to reflect on what kind of stuff they'd like to see, instead of going with just the popular opinion. And unfortunately, in this case that we have right now, the popular opinion was, Trump man bad, Biden will save us, let's vote for Biden. And we kind of got repercussions from it. We got a guy who can barely go on any news or any platform and speak clearly. It's so hard to follow what he's saying. You just get lost in it, and I think we kind of messed up on that part. I feel like I'm gonna
regret asking
Not
this.
to mention, yeah.
But how many people here are actually like fans of Trump.
I mean, like, okay, so the thing is, it's not that I'm a fan of Trump. It's just like
was Trump the better choice over Biden? Is what I'm asking.
yeah. I mean, like, all right.
Yes.
So it was either we deal with Trump and his mean tweets, but at least he got shit done, or we got Biden, who can't even go on probably Twitter and speak without fucking up his sentences. I mean,
Biden's bad at public speaking, but
like,
Trump
he also
printed like what is it, like a third or like half of the entire monetary supply in like 3 months or something. Like Trump just basically doomed the economy without further intervention in the last 6 months of his presidency.
Well, so did Biden.
I don't know.
I mean, what do you think all this COVID relief payment and the stimulus checks are doing to the economy? They're not helping at all. Like, people are just literally getting paid to sit at home. And if you're doing that, I mean, it's your choice whether you want to do that or not. But, I mean, it's literally just hurting the economy for you just to receive those stimulus payments.
So,
Because,
funnily enough, just circling back to Kentucky,
yeah.
Thalmor, I actually read an article the other day that said Kentucky is the #1 state suffering from basically what they're calling the Great Resignation. Basically a lack of lower wage workers willing to work basically the shit jobs.
I mean, so like...
Says we're the #1 state for it, apparently, yeah. Even the shit jobs are now paying like decent. Like, I know here in Michigan, if you work at McDonald's, it's not a minimum wage job anymore. You get paid like $15 to $17 just to be a fry cook at McDonald's, which is actually a good wage for where I live. Like, I don't think the places offering 15 plus an hour are having an issue finding employees.
No, because it's like less. You wouldn't think like McDonald's a good job, good paying job, but like now since they're actually paying well, I mean, it's not a bad job to look at now. Like,
this might be entirely
now that
this is 100% anecdotal evidence. But my local McDonald's that I go to if I ever want McDonald's, in the last year or two, so like when I first moved to Kentucky, this was like the hellhole, like the worst example of a McDonald's you've ever seen. You go get in line. I'm not joking. 30 minutes later, you'd still be in line behind like 3 cars. Like they just took a nap. I don't know what they were doing in the store. They bumped up their pay and did a big advertisement drive or whatever for employees to come in, all that good stuff. And it has completely turned it. I mean, like, the dude, again, completely anecdotal evidence. The new workers that work there are super nice, like shockingly nice for a McDonald's.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think the big difference is literally like the people willing to work for like 9 or 10 an hour versus the people willing to work for 15, 16 an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you get people that give a shit with just a $5 difference in wage.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Not even that much.
Like, and also they do a bunch, like, actually once you get a job, they do a bunch of, like, they help you out with school and stuff like that too. So, I mean, it's not a bad job at all.
Alright, wait a minute. I'm starting to think Church works for McDonald's corporate.
No, I don't. Right now I'm sitting at home sick because, don't kill me, but yeah, I got vaccinated.
I mean, that's okay. I've been vaccinated.
I mean, I'm, like, personally, my choice, by choice, I wouldn't have gotten it yet, but, I mean, it's what my family wanted, and, well, yeah, enough of that drama. But I forgot another point that I was going to say about politics. Damn it. We got off track a little bit.
It's alright. We're on McDonald's now.
All right, sweet.
Tell me your hot
McDonald's.
take, McDonald's take, Thalmor.
Hot McDonald's steak.
I think McDonald's, Chick-fil-A has milkshakes, Zig. I think McDonald's, like, I've seen, like, one of my local McDonald's, the most popular one, whenever I go through, they have a little banner by the drive-through that, like, talks about all the benefits to joining the McDonald's crew. And, like, it's not just, like, their starting pay is higher. I think the ceiling for pay is higher. And, like, they offer all sorts of, like, other benefits, like, I think tuition help and stuff. Like, McDonald's has a bad reputation, but, like, you can work at McDonald's full-time and support a kid here in rural Kentucky working at McDonald's if you get to a high enough level. So, like, it's doable.
Yo. Yeah.
I think that's one of the big pieces McDonald's has been fighting for a long time is the actual stigma of being a worker of being a McDonald's worker, basically.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that would like to just shit on that job just because, I mean, you work for a fast food restaurant at minimum wage. And people just look down on a job like that, but now that you have like a fairly decent wage and you're actually
Is church
decent
breaking
job,
up for anybody else, or is that my
to work
internet?
for you. Oh, I'm breaking up. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. My personal thought process, have you guys ever watched The Godfather, I think is the movie? Or maybe it was The Irishman. I don't know. Which one has, what's his name in it? I can't think of the actor's name, and this is kind of going to blow up my whole point. But anyway, it's a mafia movie, and one of the scenes has the dad talking to the son, and the son is saying that those guys, like, you know, the mafia people are so brave, etc., etc. And the dad gives him a little speech about how they're not brave, or they're not strong, or they're not courageous, or whatever. The real people that are strong or courageous are the people that wake up and go do a job every morning. And that's kind of how I view pretty much any shitty job that I look at personally and be like, I would not go work at. You know, it takes a special kind of person to grind like that. In a positive way, not in a negative way. I think we've started an entire argument over sodas and
For what was it? I had tipped my tongue. As long as you're not doing drugs and, like, being a gangster, like, if you get up and you go make food for people or clean their house or build something or work in a factory, like, if you're doing an honest day's work and you're paying your bills, I mean, that's what everyone should do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's virtuous. There are people, I know plenty of people who just live off of welfare. They're able-bodied. They can do something, even if it's just, you know, gathering up the carts at the Walmart parking lot for minimum wage. Like, there are people who can do work.
I know way too
just
many
don't.
people that live off of just, like, I don't want to call them parasitic, but yeah, there are some people that are truly just like parasitic living.
Yeah. And, like,
But I mean, I think we need to have.
generational.
That's why the spending bill was so important. You know what I mean? It was an FDR. It was an FDR idea, basically. I don't know if the bill itself was perfect, but the idea to reinvest money back into America for once, you know what I mean, instead of putting it in Afghanistan or sending it to India to help them build nukes or whatever the fuck we've been spending it on. Is like building all that shit is so important because it puts people like that back to it provides opportunities like that. States like Kentucky, rural Kentucky, with you know barely paved roads could really use federal funding to help them expand that infrastructure. Thalmor could broadcast
roads are
Thalmoria
fine.
in 4K if he had better Wi-Fi.
Fair.
I've been
Church might not be
researching
breaking up.
if I could become my own ISP provider.
It's because I'm not connected to the Ethernet.
What were you saying, Thalmor?
Our roads are fine, but also I have been researching if I could get a like an internet tower installed because I'm surrounded by mountains, and I think we own the tops of like 3 of them. So like I've been researching if I could get a satellite tower installed up here, but I think it would cost tens of thousands of dollars, and I don't have that kind of money, unfortunately. My family owns it.
Hashtag eat the Thalmor.
But-
Thalmor is the landlord.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I used to care about fiscal conservatism, but I stopped caring because everyone is like looting the treasury. Like the welfare parasites are, foreign countries are, corporations are, propping up, spending hundreds of billions propping up zombie companies that will never be profitable. Like everyone has their hand in the pot getting what they can, and if you're not also trying to get what you can, you're just a sucker. And so it's like the entire economy is built on funny money. It's all propped up by the guns of the U.S. military. Like, yeah, we might as well spend some of that money putting it in the hands of Americans because, like, the ship won't be turned around. But if any of that money can make it back into the hands of the American people, especially with inflation, especially with how wages are stagnant, then like
That's a win.
that changes their life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I agree. Shit, what was I gonna say? Propped up on funny money. I had something really good for that, but I don't remember what it was.
I don't know.
So I read this other article the other day, basically talking about how. So you know how CNN, Fox News, CNBC, et cetera, when they talk about the economy, what do they always show? They show the stock
GDP.
market.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sometimes, but the GDP, usually when they talk about GDP, it ties into the GDP report affecting the stock market. So I read this article the other day claiming, I should say, that 80 to 90% of all stocks are owned by basically people that we would place in the 1 or top 0.1% or whatever. So like even the economy, the whole quote unquote economy that everybody worries about, the stock market or whatever, and some people bitch about their 401ks or whatever, that's a drop in the bucket. All of that shit just goes to basically support and grow the same people's wealth. And it's pretty crazy and they don't pay taxes on any of it either. Because as you own that stock, there's no unrealized gain tax. You know what I mean? So, it's like example, Elon Musk owns a bunch of Tesla stock. As long as he doesn't sell that shit, he doesn't get taxed on it like he would actual income.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
like, it's not income.
It makes sense in a
income,
certain way. It makes sense for you or me. You know what I mean? Like if we make capital gains and we don't withdraw it, we shouldn't necessarily get taxed on our small gains. But when individual people are a percentage of the US GDP, I feel like something should be reworked. You know what I mean?
And may Allah forgive me for defending the billionaire, but like, on the principle of it, I don't think he should be taxed because that's not liquid cash. See, it's an easy misconception people have.
It's hidden money, basically. It's just a way to not get taxed.
But it's not. John Smith has $3.6 billion in like pharmaceutical stock, right? But because of COVID vaccines and the sale from COVID vaccines, it becomes 4.1 billion. He doesn't have 500 million extra in the bank that he can spend on hookers in blow. Like, he would have to sell that to get cash. And so, like,
Okay, so by that same logic,
unrealized capital gains,
we have property
when you
tax for
tax
that
unrealized
reason.
gains, then you're taxing fake money, and that is, I think that's really shitty. You don't want paying taxes sucks already. Paying taxes on money you don't have is even worse.
But it's I get what you're saying from a certain perspective, but at the same time, if you flip that logic, if John Smith has $3 billion tied up in acreage, you know what I mean? Profitable, producing acreage that he's farming and selling shit off of, the government would tax that land as well. You know what I mean? Like, that's that's
You mean
a thing
property
we already
tax?
have established. You have taxes in place for things that, okay, even if it's not a farm, if it's woods that nobody uses, that property is still being taxed based on the valuation of that property. So, like, if you buy a house, for example, even if you pay off your mortgage, you will always be paying the government a percentage of the value of your property. So why doesn't that apply to money tied up in something else, like a stock? You know what I mean? That's money tied up in property. It's not liquid. The stocks
Property
rely
taxes
on
are
the
gay as
U.S.
hell
government.
anyway.
I mean, that's. Oh, you do?
I don't have 20 acres of raw land in West
You
Virginia.
looking for some farmers,
Wow.
hillbilly? I'll give you a cut. I'll be your serf.
20 acres ain't really that much, though.
Huh? 20 acres
20
is
acres ain't really
a
that much.
good bit if you have zero.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, property tax already exists for money tied up in something else. So conceptually, I don't feel like it's really that different. But I don't know. To me, the stock market has moved away from its, I guess, in my layman understanding of it, its original purpose of being a way to, raise money from investors to help fund your company. And I feel like it's turned into a way for, we've seen the phenomena with Wall Street bets, if you guys keep up with that. Basically just a way for people to either gamble or increase their wealth, but without providing value to the economy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no,
Like, I
and of course, the
understand
only
stock value goes up
instances.
based on investor confidence, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of grown to a point where it's not healthy and needs to be reined in.
And I think the GameStop AMC drama earlier this year helped show just how rigged it is. But, like, although there's a lot of bullshit with stock trading, at the end of the day, it is, like, legitimate. It's you're taking your money and you're investing it in a company who will hopefully, give you a return on your money at some point. It's a way to diversify your portfolio, to save up for retirement, to engage with the market.
Right. But if it's, 80-90% owned by the business owners, you know what I mean? And they're just multiplying their own wealth by reinvesting in their own shit. You know what I mean? It kind of turns into this,
Sure.
like, weird cyclical thing of, like, them producing money out of thin air, or, unrealized money out of thin air. And there are rules for
Sure.
withdrawals and
There's
selling your own
bullshit.
company and stuff, but the whole thing is kind of sketchy to me.
No, there's certainly bullshit. Yeah, I can't, like, sit here and, like, defend like Wall Street. Like, no, I've already damned myself by trying to defend the billionaires' unrealized taxes, unrealized income. Wall Street doesn't need the best defense that Mr. Thalmor here can put up for them.
I feel it. Let's check on the Virginia results, see where we're at. 61%
I'm sketched
in.
out by Fairfax County.
Still a
I'm sketched out by
10% jump. Fairfax County is a third of the way
Right-wing
in.
Twitter. Right-wing Twitter is very excited. They think that Youngkin has it, and they're very pessimistic usually. So we'll see how it goes.
So Fairfax County is sitting 68 to 32. So that's still a pretty wide margin. But they only have 700,000 votes left to count, and not every single one of those is going to be Democrat. So, I mean, if it kept its same margin, Justinian does math. It's going to take me a second. So roughly 70% in favor of the Democrats. So 0.7 times what? 700,000? 490,000. I don't think that would be enough to close the gap, actually.
Some group, Decision Desk.
Richmond City has still reported zeroed in.
Headquarters calls for Youngkin.
I'm going to go out on a limb and also call for Youngkin at this point, but we'll see. Norfolk is 65% of the way in. Chesapeake is 41% of the way in. Virginia Beach, 53. Virginia Beach is swinging pretty far Republican compared to where they were, because they went, I think, like 5 or 6 or 8 points Democrat in 2020, and they are almost 20 points Republican in this election. So that's a huge swing. Chesapeake is also interesting. I love watching elections.
It's exciting. Like, I think it's all bullshit, but there's still it's like sports in a way. I'm not a sports guy, but it's like sports.
Sports ball.
Sports ball. Yeah. And they have these little, what are these voting districts? Do you guys see these little, like, tiny circles in the middle of the maps?
No.
Of some counties?
No, post what you're talking about. I have no idea.
So if you
post
guys,
what you're talking about.
So if you look at the, I'll link it again. So the NPR map, for example, there's a bunch of little, they look like lakes, but they're like little tiny voting districts in the center of these larger voting districts. And it's just like, why are they there? Like Fairfax County has a small one, Fairfax City, that's only 23,000 people. Why didn't that just get incorporated into the larger million, 1.1 million of Fairfax County?
I don't see any circles in this map. Hold on, let me keep looking.
You're not too far off with McOlive.
Is that how you pronounce it?
I mean, not necessarily, but you're not too far off.
You're asking why there are some circles in some of these counties?
So if you look at the map that I linked, you can see how some of the larger voting districts or counties are surrounding these like small little dots, which are their own little, I guess, municipalities or whatever. It's just funny to me how they're organized like that.
I think it's because those are like towns, and so they're trying to divide up the population, and so like those circles are like larger towns and cities.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I mean, probably. I just think it's funny. Like to have a holdout of like 20K in a group of 1 million plus. It's like, okay, good for you, I guess.
Well, if
looking
If
at
you
some
look-
of these small districts, they're on the side of Fairfax County, Alexandria City, and Arlington County are both pretty sizable as well that I didn't see until just now. So they'll probably swing. They look like they're swinging heavy blue as well. So maybe, I don't know, maybe what's his name isn't all the way out of the race, but he's lagging super far, more than 12 points behind. So, or I'm sorry, 11 points behind.
Actually,
Math.
to be precise, it's 10.7.
Yes, 10.7.
we gotta be specific here.
I mean, I don't know why the Dems keep running Clinton era, especially Clinton heavily associated Democrats.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Like
because
it's just like, why do you think people will vote for them?
because it keeps the status quo. That's all they want. Because these party leaders, they want to keep enriching themselves on behalf of the corporate interest. They have no desire to serve the American people and their districts, except for when, like, so. Do you know who Justin Amash is?
No, but are you about to red pill me on some dude?
Not on some dude. Justin Amish is a libertarian who ran on the Republican ticket,
Mm-hmm.
and he won. And he was in Congress for I think just one term, and he's been pretty open. He had an interview with a guy named Michael Malice that you can watch, in which he talked about his time in Congress. And what he said was that Congress is basically like a high school. Everyone gossips. Everyone. There's also the drama. But like at the same time, a lot of things are just kayfabe for the cameras. Like when the cameras are off, they can all be buddy with each other. The biggest thing though is that no one is independent. Everyone takes marching orders from their party leadership, and if they don't, they get kicked off of committees. They don't get invited to parties, and like a couple dozen Congress people make names for themselves, but out of the 400 or whatever, most of them, they just kind of come in, do the bare minimum of their job. They shake hands back home, which they usually do enjoy doing. They do enjoy being able to help their constituents, some at home. But by and large, they make their easy money, and that's all. And they're just drones for their parties.
Damn it.
So there is no actual desire from, I mean, it's true of both parties. But I think especially we see that with the Democrats, with how why do they keep running these corporate Dems? Because that's what the party wants, and the party takes marching orders from the corporations. Keeping
Another key piece I think you're missing is like a lot of these politicians are 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. You know what I mean? Like, even if they did have ideas different from their corporate masters, like, I don't think a lot of them do. I think they're all in line. You know what I mean? Like, with the whole concept of, like, some weird 1950s idea of America that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that could be it. They could be stuck in their ways, and boomers.
Like, have you seen, I mean, I'm sure you've seen dozens of them, but I see all the time, like, congressional hearings where they'll call Mark Zuckerberg or whoever to bitch about Facebook. And they'll call him up there, and the dude, this was recently, I can't remember who it was, one of the senators or congresspeople. And he's like, how does the internet work? And you're just like, you don't even understand
You mean
the
Meta,
internet.
right?
Huh?
I said you mean Meta, right?
I don't remember who it was, but one of the
No.
old guys.
I'm talking about Facebook.
Yes.
Name to Meta.
Yes. Sorry, please don't sue me, Mark Zuckerberg.
Ooh.
But I mean, just shit like that, man. I mean, they don't even understand what the internet is. They don't know. They're all millionaires at this point. They don't know what it's like.
Boomers.
You know what I mean? To grow up in the current economy. they're still operating on like, well, I worked for $1 an hour back in 1950, and that was fine for me. It paid for college. And it's just like, people just don't understand, man. What's wrong with boomers? I'm gonna let literally everyone else answer that question.
What's wrong with boomers? Oh,
There's
I don't
nothing
know.
wrong with boomers. I just, as with any old person, I think you get to a certain point where, as with anyone, you get to a certain point, you may not be able to empathize and you may not be able to see other people's point of views. And that becomes a problem when you're their representative. In my opinion, anyway.
Boomers are funny.
Boomers will be funny when they die.
Do you ever just think how funny it'd be to just go up to a boomer who's just really against weed and then just feed him an edible?
You know what's funny? My 95-year-old now, actually, great. She's not a grandparent. She's the sister of my great grandmother, I guess. So great aunt. She moved out to Denver a couple years ago. She just goes to town on edibles, man. And I think that's the funny, because we're all from, my entire family's from, rural, conservative, Baptist, Presbyterian, Southern, areas.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was the funniest shit ever. When she came, she visited after living there for like a year or two, and I jokingly asked, you ever eat any special brownies out there? And she was like, hell yeah.
No, I just think about how funny it would be. I'll just be sitting in my bed and then I'll just laugh to myself because I just think just a family gathering. It's give my grandparents, who are both strongly against weed, just an edible cookie and just see how they react. I just want to watch them watch Judge Judy while they're kind of cooked off their ass.
I support giving literally anyone over the age of 12 edibles.
All right, not 12. All right, not 12.
I said over the age of 12.
All right, maybe over the age of 18. Maybe just a little bit. All right. We don't need fucking 13-year-olds coming into school cooked off their ass because they ate an edible cookie. Although that would be pretty funny too. Now that I think about it.
What's your stance on marijuana down there in rural Kentucky, Thalmor?
Well,
I don't want to smoke it, but I think it should. I think all drugs should be legal.
So you want to eat it, is what you're saying.
I don't want to smoke it, but I want to eat the shit out of it.
Thalmor confirmed as an edibles fan. Honestly, I feel you, Thalmor.
I mean, honestly, the more states that legalize all drugs, the more popular they're going to get with Demi Lovato. So I think it's for the good cause. You just see, you don't want to... Are you telling me you don't want to go to Oregon right now and just watch Demi Lovato on a street corner just with a spoon and a needle, just cooking it up? Oh, that's hilarious. No, I mean, my stance on drugs is I think weed is fine, but honestly, we're spending too much money trying to fight drugs, and it makes no sense for states to still have laws against weed. All right, there's people in, or not in prison, but in jail for longer sentences for just carrying a bag of weed.
Mm-hmm.
Than
so
some other people who've done messed up shit. Go ahead.
And I don't understand why marijuana is still illegal federally anyways, because it's not even just that popular opinion has turned against marijuana, popular opinion against the war on drugs has been turning. Like, people don't want like crack and meth and heroin to all be illegal. Like, they don't want kids doing it, but I think if you explain to people what the repercussions of the war on drugs are, I think they would say, "Oh, this is awful. This is."
I th- I think instead of like trying to, you know, put them in jail for carrying harsh drugs on them and stuff like that, I think it would make more sense to, if they are open to it, put them in rehabilitation centers to try and get better. Because, like, all right, so most of the time, like, they want to get off of the drugs, but like are mentally not able to because they have no support systems, or like somebody backing them up saying, hey, you can get clean, like that, you know, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's
My is my connection
it's
safe?
easier for them to just say, yeah, it's easier for them to just say to themselves, all right, I'm gonna keep doing this than quitting, because honestly quitting sucks for them. And sometimes families think to themselves, yo, we've tried to help this man as much as possible. We just gotta let him do his own thing. Or some families just don't even care. Some families do care too, but like the person that is still addicted to drugs is just kind of in the mindset of like, hey, fuck off, this is my life. I'm gonna do what I want. So I think just, instead of arresting them, putting them in rehabilitation centers would be a lot better. If they want to, it's fully up to them. And stuff like, I know there's parts around the country that are doing like the clean needle projects, stuff like that, where like you can go get clean needles instead of using a needle that's been used 4 or 5 times and passed around different people. I know some places are doing that are actually providing a safe way, in quotation marks, to do drugs instead of using like a dirty old, probably hepatitis infested needle.
Mhm.
So I mean, yeah,
Can I go? Can I go on a? Can I go on a spiel? See, I was going to ask this, but then my Discord crashed in a really weird way. Can I go on a spiel for 5 minutes about the war on drugs, real quick?
Oh yeah,
The
go ahead.
repercussions therein. So, the reality of the war on drugs is this: it ruins lives, because if you're a 19-year-old college student and you want to sell some weed to one of your friends, you can get arrested, you can get charged with a felony and spend many years in prison over it. Because not just because you had possession, but also because you had distribution. Less so these days, but like a couple decades ago, oh yeah. And the reality of being in prison on a drug charge like that is that you're going to be sent to like a real bad prison, especially if you were charged in the state and not federally. And so this 19-year-old kid who sold some marijuana to his friend, now he's in prison with like gang members, rapists, murderers, and now because he's in this high security prison on a drug charge, well, he's now exposed to the potential of being raped. He's now exposed to the potential of being murdered. I know someone from my church whose son did 25 years in prison for a marijuana charge, not even distribution. And like the first day he was there, they tried to rape him. And like maybe they eventually succeeded. I don't know. She never told me. She probably didn't even want to tell me. But like that's the reality. And it's not just one person. This has happened to many people. Once they finish their time, they're a felon. What does that mean? Well, they can't vote. They can't own a firearm. Okay, they can't protect themselves, and they lose what little. And the kid was 18 at this time, by the way. And so he can't own a firearm. He has this massive, blank sheet in his resume, so he can't find a job. So many places turn away felons. So his life has been made so much harder, and he's lost so much of his life because he's tried selling some marijuana to a friend, or he smoked it, or whatever. And it doesn't just stop there. Take a civil asset forfeiture. If you're traveling with $13,000 in cash because you're going to go buy a car, or because you agreed with someone on a Facebook marketplace page that you wanted to buy their new car or whatever, so you get all this cash, you're traveling, and a cop pulls you over because it's a speed trap or whatever, some reason. The cop asks, "Can I search your vehicle?" Well, you're a law-abiding citizen. You've done nothing wrong. Of course he can search your vehicle. Cop search your vehicle, finds the cash, seizes it. And you can do anything about it. And he can seize it. And you know why he's going to seize it? Because it's suspicious. Why are you carrying so much cash? If this is probably drug money, I'm taking it. And he can do that because prosecutors have developed a legal fiction where they don't charge you with the crime. They're actually charging the money with the crime. It's a legal fiction. If you looked at the court docket for it, it would be County of Jamesville versus approximately $13,000 in cash. And you can sue to get it back, but your attorney's going to cost you $5,000, $10,000. So, unless you've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's not really worth fighting for. And you might lose and be out even more money. And the war on drugs has been used as a justification to peer into the financial transactions of every American. It's been used to militarize the police. Breonna Taylor in Louisville, my fellow Kentuckians, she died because of a no-knock raid because the police went to arrest her drug dealer boyfriend. She didn't have to die, but because the cops are so aggressive with their raids and stuff over drug crimes, they're just hyper aggressive. And so, all of this suffering that's been done to so many people over all these decades for the war on drugs, and it has done nothing. Kentucky is still in the middle of an opioid epidemic. Many states are. People overdose all the time from drugs. People in prison get drugs. People in schools get drugs. So many people have suffered so much because of the war on drugs, and it hasn't even fixed the problem. So I am very staunchly for the complete legalization of all drugs because the cure has been worse than the disease. So there you go. That's the red pilling on the drug question.
Yeah. I'd like to go back to something Michael said. I find it interesting. So, Michael, I'm going to point you out here really quick. You said that weed isn't legal and alcohol is a lot more dangerous. Yes, correct. But you got to remember at one time prohibition was a thing. So alcohol was illegal at one point, and that was a thing. And look at all the crime that caused. A lot. So I think just give it time. And honestly, in time, weed will become legal if we can get, the boomers.
It'll definitely become legal.
Just,
Probably the next
put their hands-
Democratic president, honestly. I'm surprised Biden hasn't already made it so, or at least decriminalized it.
Oh, no, because have you looked at Kamala Harris's her policies on it? Because that's probably why. Kamala Harris doesn't want it to be legal, which makes absolutely no sense at all. Because
It doesn't.
I mean, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense for weed to be illegal. Because, it's not, and I'm not gonna come right out and say it, but it's not bad. From experience, it's not a bad drug. It's not it's gonna fuck up your life or anything like that.
It's not even a drug in the traditional sense. It's literally some grass that you smoke.
I mean,
It's one thing to have artificially made Xanax or something like that. That's a very complex chemical formula that's trademarked and owned by a company. You know what I mean? abusing a horrible, something that'll ruin your life.
Yeah,
But weed is literally just a plant that makes you giggly and sleepy and hungry.
to put you into or to put
People
it into
smoke it to help with. I smoke it to help with my appetite and to help with sleep. Getting to sleep.
Yeah,
It's a useful plant. It's an herb. It's not a drug.
no,
It's just funny that people think that though.
and to put into perspective, I mean, you see in a lot of movies people smoke weed and then they get really tripped out and see things. That's not at all what happens. I mean, to kind of just give you a clue if you're one of those people that haven't done it. I mean, it's basically it's basically like smoking nicotine, but on a much stronger level, to say, because nicotine, we all know it gets you a buzz and stuff like that. I mean, weed it makes you feel buzzed, and also it can make you giggly and hungry and stuff like that. It's just a little bit different than smoking a cigarette, but yeah. So yeah, it just shouldn't be illegal, and it makes no sense why politicians nowadays just want it to still be illegal, because you're just gonna spend more money trying to fight it than you are trying to than just legalizing it. Actually, also legalizing it helps out the economy, because I mean, I don't know about you guys down there, but up here where I am,
dude, Kentucky could make bank if it was quicker to legalize. Even hemp stuff. If they move to more hemp production, Kentucky is literally a historical hemp producing state. That is literally our history going back to before America was even a country. Places that have farmland and places that are in centralized locations, Kentucky is a landlocked state surrounded by several states that currently have weed illegal. You know what I mean? I'm not saying weed tourism is legally correct, but honestly, Kentucky needs the money. You know what I mean? We're 47 or 48 in the country in pretty much every category. And, it could go a long way to fixing a lot of the problems that a lack of coal jobs have left in Kentucky.
I mean, yeah, like I was gonna say, so it helped out the economy a lot, because I mean, it also kind of ruins. All right, there's ups and downs to legalizing it. Obviously, I mean, the ups is, I mean, it could really boost your economy and could open up a whole new market for it being legal. But the downside is, I personally don't like it, because I mean, there's other potential possibilities for small businesses and communities, and it just sucks to see it go to another weed place when there's already 10 of them in town. But in one of the bigger cities where I live, up here, there's there's 2 pot stores right across the street from each other. There's another 4 in town, and then there's another 4 outside of town. It's crazy how many stores have popped up, but it helps out to get more money, and then, but in some people's minds, and I guess in my mind too, it kind of just sucks to see what could have been another neat store for the community just go to another pot store that we kind of didn't need, because we have 10 already. So
it becomes an oversaturated thing.
Yeah, and you could also still buy it off the street. Yeah, you don't need to go to, if you don't support the dispensaries, but you still want to smoke it. I mean, there's lots of people that you can go to and buy it, and some people have it just as good as the dispensary, and but like I said, there's ups and downs to legalizing it. The down is just culturally, your town will most likely shift to having a lot of weed stores. But on an economic scale, it's gonna help out the economy a little bit because everybody's now gonna buy weed legally from these dispensaries instead of going to their buddy Jimbo's RV camper in the middle of the woods and buying it from a bag or buying it from him in a little dime bag. Like, I know that's stereotypical, but I mean it's true.
So just to give a quick update on the elections,
Oh.
New Jersey closed at 8 p.m. and has reported in about 20%. Obviously, I don't think anybody would be shocked that it stays Democrat. It looks like it is. It's 55% in favor of Philip Murphy, whoever that is. About the same lead that Youngkin currently has over the Democrat in Virginia, who are 69% reported in. Nice. And honestly, I mean, just looking at who has reported in and who's still reporting in, I don't think there's enough margin left for the Democrat to make a comeback from an 11-point lag with 70% already in. I mean, that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be
I'm seeing
shocked
people.
if I woke up tomorrow and Virginia wasn't a Republican governor.
I'm
Murphy
seeing
is a
people call
Democrat,
it for
yes.
Youngkin, and I'm seeing nobody call it for McCollin.
Huh. I
Wait,
see
did you just change his name again? McCollin?
McLovin.
Yeah,
McLovin?
McLovin. That's his
McDonald.
official name now. So, Thalmor, were you just about to comment on that McDonald's comment from Hillbilly?
So
No, I'm just calling McCollin
If not,
McDonald's now. It's
that's
McDonald's
fair.
So the
Youngkin.
yes and no, Hillbilly. I agree that it would be a huge blow to Dems. I think it kind of signals bad things coming in the midterms. Democrats are really famous for not showing up to vote if there's not a presidential election happening. And this kind of just highlights that, like, a lot of the urban districts that swung heavily Democrat in 2020 have way smaller margins than they did. I mean, almost across the board. If you, that link I sent you, you can compare it really quickly. Basically, across the board, every single county that swung heavily Democrat in 2020 has like 10 is like missing 10 or more points than they were last November. And I'm not sure how much of that is an indictment of the Biden presidency and how much of that is just typical Democrats don't show up to vote in non-presidential, not the smaller elections. Because a lot of people, particularly for the Democrats, I think the Democrats have a bigger issue than Republicans with energizing their base, not just swinging independents, but getting their own people who would self-identify as Democrats to actually get the fuck out of their chair and go vote. Republicans typically, tend to be older anyway and have a little more free time to begin with, and they go out to vote like it's their fucking job, like they get paid for it. So, I don't know. Probably a mix
Kentucky
of
weirdly
both.
has like the opposite issue because Kentucky reliably goes very red in presidential elections, but we keep electing Democratic governors. It's very weird.
I actually think the Bashir guy has done, regardless of his party affiliation, I think he's done a really good job. And I really like how communicative he has been across the whole pandemic. You know what I mean? He didn't like hide behind a curtain because people were mad about masks. He didn't, you know what I mean, try to hide his personal opinion on it. He just flat out came out and was like, "Hey, you know,
What's going on?
Lysander, I'll be honest,
Justinian, what do you think
I
of
don't even know which
Brandon?
party wins the mail-in. Sorry, what?
What do you think of Let's Go Brandon?
Oh,
Of what?
let's go, Brandon.
What
Do you
is
know what
Let's
that
Go
is?
Brandon?
Let's go,
Oh.
Brandon.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, so it was like
Okay,
on was it Sports Center? Was it? Or where was that from?
NASCAR.
Oh, NASCAR. All right, sweet.
It was NASCAR.
What
All
the
right.
fuck? I don't watch NASCAR, I'll be honest.
Well, I said Sports Center because I thought that's where it originated from, where the reporter said it. I don't know.
Okay, what happened was this. Justinian, are you aware of the spontaneous "fuck Joe Biden" chants that's been happening at sports events lately?
Hell yeah.
Nope.
Okay, so this
Uh-huh.
year there's been at sporting events, football games, basketball games, baseball games, the crowd will frequently and spontaneously erupt into a chant of "fuck Joe Biden." And this happened at a NASCAR game in which Brandon Brown won. And as a CNN, I think it was CNN, this was just October 2nd. Yeah, this was a month ago. This CNN reporter or MSNBC reporter was going to interview Brandon, and the crowd was chanting, "Fuck Joe Biden, fuck Joe Biden." But the lady said, "Oh, they're chanting, let's go, Brandon." And so from then on, "Let's go, Brandon" has become code for "fuck Joe Biden." And
That's
it's
wild.
became like a right wing meme. Yeah, it's been really funny.
That is pretty funny. No, I had no idea that was a thing, actually.
I mean,
Yeah, and in the video, it is clear they're saying "fuck Joe Biden," but the poor anchor's like, "Oh, they're saying let's go, Brandon."
So that's not like one of those weird TikToks that's like if you concentrate, you can hear something different or
no.
whatever.
I think she was mainly just
No.
trying to sweep it under the rug and be like,
That's
"Yeah,
really-
they're saying this."
That's really
of,
clever
"Fuck
on the
Joe
part of the
Biden."
reporter for thinking on her feet that quickly, but that is really funny.
I mean, she could have just like ignored the whole chant and not like commented on it either. Like, you can. There's ways to cut out that sort of audio from.
No way, man. She's famous now. She sees her chance, her moment of glory, apparently.
I mean, I think it was kind of an idiotic move because then you had all the people saying, "Oh, see how the liberal media tries to hide this stuff." It's funny, but I mean, she kind of messed up
Yeah.
by trying to change the chant.
Alright, final answer. Thalmor, Church, Zig, Hillbilly. What I'm calling Virginia for Youngkin. What do y'all think?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely
I
gonna
think-
be Youngkin. There's no.
I think it's gonna tighten up as more votes come in, but I think Youngkin's about to blow it out.
Probably.
I think McDonald's wins, and almost all of the votes that's going to come in the rest of the night are all going to be for him. McDonald's wins.
You think the
hands
Dems
down.
gonna swing it more than 11 points?
No.
No.
There's no way. I mean, there's no way.
No, unless some sort of trickery comes up.
I was joking.
Oh,
I was joking.
I don't believe you. I think you're a secret Democrat.
Oh no.
Hashtag boycott Thalmor.
Banned.
Well, the
Hashtag canceled.
Blue and gold.
Thalmor is canceled.
Thalmor gets canceled on radio show.
Hillbilly thinks the margin of victory will be narrow.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely going to. Nah, I don't think it's going to be narrow. I think I think it's going to be about the same margin.
I don't know. I'm looking at like the percentage. I think it'll. I think the gap will close for sure a little bit, but this is just a huge. I mean, it's already closed a little bit actually. He's down from 11 to like 8 or 9. I don't know. He is technically less than 200,000 votes behind. Not impossible for him to pull ahead and eke out a win, I guess.
I guess, but
how many mail-in ballots are left uncounted? I do not.
I think mail-in ballots were probably the stupidest thing to come.
Mail-in ballots have been a thing forever. I don't know why they've become a controversial thing lately.
I mean, mainly because of what happened during the election. Personally, I just think it's stupid because like something could happen to those ballots that was out of everyone's control and that could fuck everything up. But not saying that like you can cheat the mail-in ballots. No, that's not all I'm saying. What I'm saying is like something could happen to the ballots, like an accident, and that could fuck everything up so that you have to have everyone redo.
So if I'm reading this correctly, last year had over half of registered Virginia voters. They're classifying it as voting absentee. So I believe that includes early voting, mail-in voting, and anything like basically not at the poll on poll day.
Yeah. Rip.
So we shall
Sorry for
see.
being quiet. I'm catching up on Twitter chatter.
I know you're reeling from being canceled, Thalmor. It's okay.
I've stayed away from
Twitter.
Bought
a house. I just bought a house.
Did you really? Congrats.
No.
Oh, was that another meme that I didn't know about?
Yeah. But who knows? Maybe when the Sigma variant of Delta happens, maybe it'll finish off the boomers and
I swear to God, if I hear one more thing about another variant, I'm just gonna kick the chair out from underneath me. I swear to fuck.
Joke's on you
Justinian,
if you survive to the Sigma variant.
I had to deal with that shit for so long. What about the Ligma variant?
If you survive all the way to the Sigma variant actually gives you superpowers.
Yeah.
We're all about to be that dude from that the HBO superhero show.
It's kind of like getting to stage 5 cancer. If you can make it there, you get superpowers.
Stage 5 cancer.
That's horrible, but funny.
I actually saw a couple of YouTube videos about what do they call him? Y'all know what I'm talking about? He's like Superman, but like HBO's generic version.
I have. There's a show
no, is it a show?
That has home.
I think the show's called Invincible. Maybe you know what I'm talking about.
So kind of like
that's on Amazon Prime, but yeah, that's.
Was it
just
Amazon
watched
Prime?
That 2 weeks ago. It's Omni-Man.
Is it
yeah,
good?
It's Omni-Man. It is great.
I saw some YouTube clips,
It's
and it's
great.
really made me want to watch it.
Dude,
So you're saying it's Amazon
It's
Prime,
great.
not HBO?
It might also be HBO. I watched it through Amazon Prime.
Okay, I'll look it up. But I've been wanting to watch it. I saw some. I watched like some YouTube summaries of the episodes, and it looked really cool.
yeah, you know what?
It is really cool.
You know what movie's pretty funny that stars Nick Cage? Dude, alright, so it's basically it's like Willy's Wonderland, and it's like basically Nick Cage meets Five Nights at Freddy's, and it is the funniest thing. Oh, it was great. I watched that on Halloween, and I don't know why, but Nick Cage is just really funny to watch. It's great. It's really shitty, but it's great.
Nicolas Cage, I think, is actually a
Alright,
good
so-
actor. He just gets the shittiest roles.
I think he just gets memed too much, but well, that's just a part about being Nick Cage now, I guess. 'Cause you just get memed.
Alright, so we've been here for 2.5 hours.
Holy
Looks like we're all in agreement that Youngkin wins in Virginia. I mean, we can keep talking, but as far as the recording, I think we're going to go ahead and officially end the show here, although we can still hang out and talk if people want. So, Soup, I want you to play the theme and then end the recording. And then we can go back to whatever we were doing. Uh-oh, Soup fall asleep? Is the soup hot?
Well, damn, dude, you told him it was going to be a 30-minute show.
Hey!
Thalmor Radio. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Thalmor Radio. Yeah, he's coming at you from the top. Oh no, no, he won't stop. Thalmor Radio. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Thalmor Radio.
Thalmor Radio.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I like long-form content. 30